Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. Tomorrow is the 8th anniversary of the Smolensk disaster. Today, however, opposition party Civic Platform have organised a meeting aimed at belittling the work of the subcommittee for the re-examination of the catastrophe.
We will be speaking with those experts today about all the facts, as well as the so-called facts which have reached the general public via Antoni Macierewicz. Dr. Maciej Lasek opened the meeting and delivered, as expected, an account perpetuating the narrative of the Russians, who claimed that the crash was pilot's fault. The pilot of the Tu-154 plane made the same landing as in Smolensk, using the same system 5 years prior. This shows that even if he wanted, and they did, the crew wanted to carry its flight out correctly, they couldn't, because they weren't given the suitable preparation, even though they were said to be the best. Other voices in the discussion denied the notion that the plane could have been blown up. The theory has already been confirmed by the Ministry of Defense, and even the Russians stopped contradicting it. If they don't have knowledge of the explosion, they might want to read the files from the Russian investigation. It's all there in detail. The fact that Mr. Lasek did not include that in his own report is his responsibility. The Russian research in this matter was conducted between the 17th and the 23rd of September 2010. Dorota Kania, an investigative journalist, is not surprised by the reactions of the people from the Miller Committee who were previously investigating the crash. All you need to do is to listen to the conversations from the committee's meeting to realize that all they really did was ensure blame was not assigned to the Russians and not to find the true causes of the Smolensk disaster.
This weekend, at the National Shrine of Our Lady of Częstochowa in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, the Smolensk Disaster Commemoration Committee are inviting the public to take part in a ceremony to honour the victims of the Smolensk disaster. It will be a two-day event. Among those invited are former Minister Antoni Macierewicz, Editor-in-Chief of Gazeta Polska and board member of Telewizja Republika Tomasz Sakiewicz, Professor Marek Chodykiewicz and many other notable figures. Franz Timmermans, the Vice President of the European Commission, has had a meeting with the Polish Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jacek Czaputowicz. The main subject of the talks were the European Commission's doubts over the judicial reforms in Poland.
We're here today to continue our dialogue, which was non-existent for some time. All we have done so far is exchange letters and official documents. The change in the Polish government has also led to a different tone in our relations. Although we don't agree on everything yet, we have an open and honest dialogue about matters concerning both sides. Both sides, from what I've gathered from today's meeting, aim to reach a consensus. We want to find a compromise which will enable us to get past Article 7 and start tackling the problems that the EU will have to face in the near future. The Vice President of the European Commission also met with the Polish Prime Minister, Mateusz Morawiecki, the Chief of the Chancellery of the President of Poland, the President of the Polish Supreme Court and the President of the Constitutional Tribunal. According to Prime Minister Morawiecki, Poland will agree to some concessions in the reforming of the judiciary. Tomasz Rzymkowski of the Kukiz 15 party is of the opinion that the government should not engage in dialogue with the EU when under ideological pressure from the European Commission. We should listen what the arguments of the European Commission are and prepare a proper response. A response that will be very thorough and meticulous. If there is a need for some self-reflection, for some change in the Polish judiciary, which would serve the Republic of Poland, then we should agree. However, we should never agree to ideological solutions that are essentially unacceptable. Politicians of the ruling Law and Justice Party state that both Brussels and the Polish government are seeking a compromise in the conflict, which started in 2016. They stress, however, that there will not seek the consensus at all costs.
Możemy dojść do porozumienia.
We can only reach an understanding which will ensure Poland's best interests. Who is this man to us, after all?
Kim jest ten pan dla nas?
The leader of Law and Justice, Jarosław Kaczyński, stated in a recent interview with Gazeta Polska newspaper that it will be difficult to reform the judiciary without some concessions. Kaczyński also added that the concessions are not ideal, but acceptable to Poland.
Yesterday, Conservatives all over the world celebrated yet another election victory in Europe. The incumbent Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, continued the recent trend from elections in the Czech Republic, Austria and Italy by winning his third straight parliamentary election by a landslide.
Fidesz, the party led by Viktor Orban, won 49% of votes, which was just enough to win a constitutional majority. The National Conservative Party Jobbik came in second place with 20% of the vote. The Conservative forces won 70% of the vote, leaving socialist and liberal parties trailing far behind. The great battle is behind us. We managed to score a key victory which will enable us to keep Hungary safe. Viktor Orban proceeded by thanking his voters, his family and Poland. I would also like to thank our Polish friends, the leader of the Polish ruling party, Jarosław Kaczyński, and Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki. They both visited Hungary in order to support us ahead of the election. Viktor Orban is receiving congratulations from leaders all over the world, some more sincere than others. I want to congratulate Viktor Orban on winning his third straight parliamentary election. The path of reforms is never easy. The fact that he still won a majority of the votes shows that it pays off to go down the path of reforms. I wish him nothing but lengthy success that will benefit Hungary as well as Europe. The strong support for Viktor Orban in Hungary will facilitate continued close cooperation between conservative leaders in Central Eastern Europe. Orban is playing a key role in the cooperation between the Visegrad Group and Austria. Depending on the outcome of the coalition government negotiations being held after the recent Italian elections, this conservative alliance may be joined by Italy soon.
Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm John Carter and Poland Daily returns same time tomorrow. Good night.